G'day and welcome to another Heaps Good Productions breakdown. Today I've got a special one for my Patreon member Joa, who has requested a little bit more of, let's say, of a setup of how to light a scenario, a situation. Now there are many ways to light a room, there are many ways to light outside, etc, etc. I'm going to do one of many techniques here today. As you can see right now, this is a complete picture. This has gone from looking at the general room tone, looking at the outside ambient light, and then also seeing what we can do to introduce some light to fill this situation and to also give us a good amount of contrast to the picture. As you can see with me, I have on this side, the shadowy side, I have this side as with my key light here. And if you probably may not have noticed, I have a little pavo tube over here just to give the reflection in the eyes. Now it's not really acting as a fill light, but it's just more acting as just a little sparkle in the eye, just to give some separation in the eyes, because sometimes that's what can get lost when you have a moody sort of setup like this. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the paces and I'm going to set it up step by step, and now I'm going to try and be in the picture as much as I can. I'm going to sit myself back down into this same position and show you how each individual taking away and adding of lights really affect the scene. And another thing to note is filtration. So I have an ND filter on the lens at the moment to really bring the levels from outside down. As you can see, it's like a pretty balanced picture. Like normally you would you would see a very blown out sky. Now sometimes that doesn't matter in a lot of situations, particularly if you don't have the firepower to be able to do that, but there are some techniques to be able to try and compensate for the exposure outside. Fortunately for myself, I have a big powerful light, and I have some tips and tricks that I'm going to share and show you with this little demonstration. So first off, I'm going to start from absolute beginning and record it from there. And I'm going to begin that now with scene one, how the camera saw it without any lights, without any blocking, without any filtration whatsoever, and then I'll go from there. So let's go. All right, so here is step one of the entire thinking process. So it's always important to have a look at the light, where it comes in and how it comes in the room. So if we're to look at this situation, we're looking at me. I'm relatively well exposed. There's bouncing light coming everywhere. I have to, you know, for me to be able to expose, I have to open up the aperture of the lens to be able to let that light in so we can see me. Now in majority of situations, if you're like really fast running gun and you really just, you know, haven't got time to set up and do all the lights and everything, this can work. You know, a lot of people aren't going to criticize you for exposing your subject correctly. Now, if your subject was too dark, for example, which I'll show you in the next step, of course, that if you can't see the person who's talking, unless of course it's a mysterious talking head, that just doesn't work. So what we need to do now is to kind of treat the scene. Now, if I'm just looking at the general picture, I have a monitor here, so I'm able to look at myself when doing this talk. So if I'm looking back here, I've got a serious overexposure rim light here, and I've got some light coming in from the window over here. So what I'll actually do is I'll just turn the camera just to reveal the actual space itself. So as we can see over here, we have a big light acting as a kind of field light source, and then we have our main light source here as well. And as we can see here, we've got the corner of the room, and that's going to be sort of in the general direction of where we would like to shoot. Now in the background, I have put in a mirror here so you can actually see some of the objects that I have. So what I generally tend to do is go, okay, well, how can I stick a light into the situation? Let me correct this camera angle. How can I stick a light into the situation to get myself a generally good exposed image? Now, that's always a tricky one, because sometimes if you're just starting out, you have little LED panels or small lights and stuff like that, and it's really hard to combat with the daylight. As you can see here, it's just flooding in and it's totally overexposed, and that's just how it is. So if I was to stop the camera, stop the lens down to expose the background properly, we can actually have a look, and I'll do that as we go along. So I'll step the camera down to where we get a generally good exposure in the background. And you know, it can be a little bit warmer, so it's always subject to personal tastes. I like to have my backgrounds exposed. And as you can see here, we have lost total exposure on myself here, or the subject. So that's of course a difficult situation to be in, because then how do you introduce light, or how do you fill that space in with enough exposure to be able to combat with the outside light, and then also fill the room with enough light to expose the subject. So for me, for my personal taste, I really do enjoy seeing a little bit of what's happening out in the background. It always depends. Sometimes it could be just a white cloudy sky, or a sun bright sky, or something like this. Everything is very dependent, but here today we have a very kind of easy and controlled setup, which we can progress and build as we go along. So yeah, right now we can see that I'm just underexposed. So this is okay if you have a mysterious talking heads person, and I think you've seen it in some TV shows where they have like the anonymous person giving information or talking about something like that. And that's okay. If that's the effect you want, then boom, shoot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to step the lens back up again, so we can get that exposure back on the subject. So back to f2. So that's wide open on this lens. If you're curious about the gear, I'll put a list in the description of this video below, or just in the description of the video. So my first concern is to go, okay, well, how do I block light? How do I block light that's coming in that I don't want, or I want to get to a point of control with my lighting? So like a really big tip, and something that I use quite often for bouncing light, is I have just some pretty basic foam core here. So I have painted a black side so we can get some like nice negative fill when we want it. And I also have a nice white side, so we can also get some bounce. Now I use these to block off windows, or to bounce light from, depending on if I'm in a pinch or not. If I need to quickly set up and, you know, light stand, boom, book light or diffuse light or something like this, it'll just give the room a general ambient lift. So this is the key here now, and this is actually what I want to do. Now, I try to avoid as much as possible to shoot light directly at the subject. So what I'm going to do in this situation is I am going to block off the window light, and I'm just going to set 2 pieces of this foam core up in the window, and I apologize for the screeching, squitching sounds, but they can't be avoided with these guys. So yeah, now we've cut out the a big source of light here. So now we have a little bit more control over the light that's coming into the room. Of course, in this situation, it's always difficult if you don't have a whole lot of firepower, as I said before, but I'm just going to go through the phases here, and I'm just going to show what's possible in terms of trying different things and trying different elements to be able to finesse the picture that you're creating here. So as you can see that in the mirror over here, we have a big lamp. So I'm just going to bring this lamp source over into the picture and quickly explain a little bit about this particular product. So this is a Nanlite Forza 500. I'm not going to go too much into selling the product to you, but it's essentially it's a big light source. And just up on here, I'll just show you quickly. We have a beautiful Fresnel fixture on this one, and you know, if you want to spot the light, you can. You can also cut the light off with the barn doors. I did a lot of research into finding out what would be really good for me as an operator, a single op working on small to medium budget jobs, and I thought, you know, in a lot of situations I don't have time to set up a whole lot of lights, and I ended up selling a whole lot of my smaller lights, and I opted to go for this one. And this one wasn't extremely expensive, and the actual output and quality of the light is more than pleasing. So I have been pretty impressed with it so far, but I haven't used it a whole lot. I'm still waiting for a couple of jobs to be approved, and during the COVID times, it's always difficult to nail these jobs. So what I'm going to do is I'll move the camera just a bit over here so we can have a look at my positioning. So excuse the focus, but I don't have any assistance today. So I'm literally putting the light source right at the bounce, as we can see here. So this is the window that I had put the styrofoam on, and excuse me, this is in my office space, so there's a monitor in the way. And this is where I'm going to be pushing this light, and this is what's going to give me the level in the room that I want to be able to expose my picture properly. So moving right along now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly turn the light on, and we'll have a look at just the general exposure and the output that straight away comes from this. So I'm just going to bump it up to 1%, and now we've got some light coming into the situation. So boom, and it gets brighter and brighter and brighter. So here we're at 30%, and we've already got a whole lot of light and level coming into this room. Now I'm standing pretty close to this light source, so obviously I'm kind of blowing out, and the lens is also sitting at f2, so it's only natural for this lens to do so. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this back down and turn it off, and move the camera back around to our situation here. So you can see in the background there that we've got the light source, so you see that coming on and off. I'll just double check and see if everything was in the correct place that I had it before, and what I wanted to show off. So a lot of these things are kind of like small micro adjustments, so you've got to kind of take into consideration that you do need to take a little bit of care and time when doing this stuff yourself. If you have, of course, these smaller jobs or these creative projects that you want to be able to balance the light. So now, straight up, I'm back in my position. We've got the elements that we want to have. Now I want to bring the level up on myself here. So let's go, we're at 10%, and we're already getting a lot of clipping. So there's a whole lot of madness happening in terms of levels and light, and we're not really well controlled in terms of holding the picture together. So there are two things that one can do in this situation. One is you can step down the lens, and two, you can filter the lens. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the situation where just stopping the lens down so we can get the exposure outside in place. So I'm going to stop it back down to, where was it? That was F8, which I felt like that had enough information going on outside. So now we're in F8 on this lens, and okay, so we're starting to get a little bit better in terms of our composition. So for me, I'm starting to enjoy this picture a lot more because we're introducing a lot more interest, depth into the picture. So let me bump up this light. I will just send it all the way up to 75%. So now 75%, boom, we are kind of getting in the right direction. We could shape the light a little bit more just to give us the thing. We could also move the subject back a little bit just so that there's more light coming into the right places. Now there are a few things that you can do to help this picture kind of grow. For me, I like this kind of moody look. You know, we've got a lot of contrast on this side of the face, and in, say for example, even in talking heads, if I'm talking to the interviewer there, where we're shooting into the shadow and we've kind of got a nice little bit of drama, or we've got a nice kicker light going on here. I would probably even finesse the situation a little bit more, and it's just about moving the subject back or forward, or moving the camera back or forward to get the right position. And also the same with the light. You know, you can do many things with trying to shape the light. So if I spot the light a little bit more, we get a little bit more control, but they're only slight details. Okay, so now what we've done is we have pretty much taken control of the general picture. Now I will add one thing, and this is just a taste thing, and also something if you happen to have it in your kit. I like to have a bit more blurry background, so I like to have that subject separation. So here with F8 you have pretty much everything more or less in focus. So we have all of our background, farmland, and then we have myself in the picture exposed. So for me, I like to filter it. So I'm going to put a filter on right now and show you the difference of all that exposure. And I have a variable ND filter, so that helps me control and make micro adjustments. Now, often I use my false colors in this situation. Oops, so I'm going to go for a zoom on this one. I always get this confused. So false colors is on the red camera, the bottom button. Remember that one, Patrick. You've had this camera for a while now. You need to not have an excuse not to be able to control the situation properly. Okay, so F8 for me, I want to go back down to F2. So I'm going to stop it all the way down to F2. And then with my variable ND filter, I'm just going to bring it down so everything is back down more or less to my liking there. And now we notice that the background, of course, is a lot more out of focus. And this for me is great. And when I sit back into the scene, we've got this nice kind of painted separation going on here. Now, this picture is not entirely complete yet, even though it's pretty much like a usable image. You know, if you're wanting to, I might bump in a little bit more light. Just checking my reference monitor here. I might even smash it up to 100%. I've got this light up at 100%, bouncing it, just to give me a nice exposure and everything here I feel like that this image is looking nice, deep, and soft in the background. Yeah, I can go on about all those adjectives, but I want to add a little bit more to it just to give it that pop. And that pop is just a little eye light and potentially an extra little bit of fill light. So what I've got here is, I'll just show it quickly, is I have a little LED pavo tube. So one I was telling you I was excited about to use before. So I'll just crank it on, and then we'll turn it up. So we've got this beautiful soft light source that I'll introduce, and I might pump it up to 75%. And I'm going to put it in pretty close to the camera position, just so we can get a little bit of fill light and also a little bit of that highlight, as I mentioned there. So now when I talk to the camera, we see a little bit of my eyes just pop out in the picture. Now, of course, you can go a little bit further and add some other modifiers. Say, for example, if it's too dark coming from this side. And for me, I really like the darkness. I would, in a normal situation, probably put up a black material here, just to give it a little bit of negative field and to stop any of that bounce. Because the walls are green, it's going to give off a little bit of that green bounce to me naturally, but because of how we're filtering it, like if we didn't have a filter and we were just letting that light bounce around in the room as we had before, you're going to get a little bit of like this color pollution, and that's, you know, that's something that you kind of got to take care of and also have a look at in your step-by-step processes. Like, okay, is this correctly white balanced? Is there some kind of color that's not making the person look sick or just not mixing well? It is quite an in-depth thinking process of like, how do I plan for each situation and room that I come into? Now, of course, when you start adding movement into rooms and all this kind of stuff, this goes up. You need to plan a little bit more. You need to have a bit more grip experience. But if you have a sit down situation like what we're doing right here, it's simple because there's one scenario that we're in, and this is sort of like a talking head. If you were to have two people, then you would have to think about, okay, well, I want to light both my subjects with as less technical stuff as possible. So you would have your big powerful light like what I have here, bouncing in or coming through a window, through a diffusion or something like this, just to give them that kind of main key light. And then whatever other little accent lights you want to introduce is kind of cool. So say, for example, you have a light bulb in the background, or for instance here we have our daylight, and our daylight is, you know, something that we have to learn to be able to not be scared of playing with. So that means we have to introduce filters, bouncing light, reflecting light, all this kind of stuff, and it gets really tricky. And that's the whole journey of the photographer's life or the cinematographer's life, that you're constantly in the process of thinking how to light a situation, but how to keep it as simple as possible. Now, if it looks good, the general rule of thumb is it looks good, right? But if it doesn't look good, then you're sort of thinking to yourself, well, like, why doesn't it look good? Is it because I have reflections? So, for example, we have here something that's really common for people to make mistakes in, is like reflections in the window. Now, in this situation, in this situation, it's good to like kind of get something to block off any of these vents or whatever that might be showing up in the background. There, you know, you've got some little bits and pieces that might leak into the picture, like for example here, and that's coming from the ventilation system at the back of the Fresnel light. They are things that can lead to small technical issues later, like as they may give unwanted effects or artifacts in the background. Now again, this is very nitpicky and very tiny detail, but this is all about the process You know, you've got to know your technicals. You've got to know for all the little things that might be potentially a sore thumb later on when you're looking at your picture later. Like, a lot of people normally wouldn't be thinking about it, but a lot of us professionals, we go, okay, well, we want the scene to be as natural as possible, and we kind of don't want it to be so lit. Now, in this circumstance, you can kind of tell that it's lit, but it looks nice, and there is some motivated light in here. And you know, you don't necessarily have to show everything, but you can kind of tell that there would be a light here. Now, if we were to like switch up this scene a little bit, just to see how we can kind of go for another perspective, and this is what I'll do, and I'll do by using this window as our main source of light. And I'm just going to move the camera a little bit in this direction and bounce. I'm going to use the exact same techniques, and I'm going to see how the picture looks in that regard. And I'm going to have the camera pretty much, you know, I'm going to go 45 degrees from where we are, and then I'm going to shoot out that window, and just to show how easy it is to be able to set up some lights and set up a scene and make something either moody and dramatic, or make something kind of lit, or make something kind of believable in its image process. So right now I'm going to reset everything and then set up a new scene using this light source, or this window, as our main light source. And because it's raining outside and I don't have any protectors for the lamp, I can't shoot the light in through the window. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have this window kind of out of shot, and then I'm going to bounce some light to fill in. So that's the next part. Alright, so I just took 2 minutes literally to reset the scene, and it was you know, not so difficult. All I had to do was I removed the styrofoam from the windows here, and I've got the big windows here, so it kind of looks a bit like we have a big light source coming in. Now, the problem in this scenario is I just quickly did it, and this is just kind of a good example if you were to quickly do something and have a look. You can kind of believe, because you can kind of see the light here, you don't know where the light source is coming from in this respect. Now, I've got a big styrofoam board here, just reflecting that level onto me. And you know, you can kind of get away from it, get away with it here. However, I feel like the light source is just a little bit too bright for kind of that overcast day thing going on. So I like just to bring down the levels a little bit, so we can kind of go, okay, well, now it doesn't feel so lit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the, get up, and I'm going to move the camera, and I'm going to show you the position of the lights and the whole setup kind of thing. So remember where I'm sitting here, I'm kind of at in the corner of the room, a little bit separated out. We've still got this mirror in the background to give us some separation, so we can see you know, reflection of the window, the mirror, and all this kind of stuff. And we have our light source coming in from the window. So if I'm to turn off, just to quickly show you, if I'll turn this light off right now, and this is our level. This is how much we are seeing from the ambient light that's in the room. Now, this is kind of cool because we are already having a really nice rim structure on me. So I don't even need to introduce any other light sources and just simply have one light source. So if I just crank this up and just step by step, level, so 15, 16, 17, 20, you know, whatever is feeling good for you in terms of a believable look. So I'll sit at 30%. Now, it's a dark look. And we're seeing that we're using this bounce, and it's giving a little bit of bounce into my eyes. And that just seems like that this scene is more believable, more alive, and you know, even though it's lit, you can still kind of go, okay, well, it looks a little bit like, okay, it's an overcast day and all this kind of stuff, but maybe there's some sun coming in from over here. So if I'm just to crank it up a little bit more, and this is all about playing with things, you know, like you've got to like practice at home, and you know, this is with photography, this is with filmmaking, as we're doing right here. So this is a total raw live setup, and really showing you the example of like, how does one create a picture. Now you could say that, you know what, I don't, it's too much dark on like this side of the face. So what you could do is, if you do have it, or if you have some kind of reflector or whatever, you could still keep that level as you want it there, and then just introduce a little bit of fill bounce. Take it away, bring in some, you know, and then you can get like a little tripod stand, light stand, just to prop that one up. So if we take that one away, then we've got a lot of shadow in this side of my face. But if you find that it's not pleasing enough, or it's not flattering enough, you know, taking things away, adding things is just totally fine. You've just got to find that process, and you've got to find out what looks nice and natural. So in this situation, I go, okay, well, I feel like the light source is a little bit too low for my liking here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to up the light that I have here, bring that just a little bit higher up, and then put our foam core board a little bit higher up as well. So we get a bit more of a natural look now. Now, these are just small adjustments. So notice just in the background here, we're seeing some kind of reflection in the window. So that's something that we should always try and take care of, and always look to eliminate there. But again, that comes with experience. There we go. Don't let your clients see that. Okay, so now we have a very pleasing, balanced, exposed picture, and that was just by introducing a couple of little elements like the foam core, which will cost you not a whole lot of money. I think, what did I pay? I think I paid around 70 krona, which is about €8 or something like this, for both of these pieces. And then I paid I don't know, another €10, or not even that much, €5 for some black paint, and spray painted both sides. So I've got my negative sides, and I've got my white sides. So if you do like that negative look, you can either take the board away, sorry, or you can just keep the board there, so we can kind of control those blacks. So we've got some serious blacks going on. Again, here we're just looking at some shapes. I'm looking at small details. Again, I have the luxury of a big director's monitor, so I can actually look at my picture of how it's going to look when it's been shot and produced. So I do like to have a little bit of the splash over here, just to give that cheek a little bit something. You know, if you introduce that that bounce, then you can fill those shadows in, and you can get a little bit more level in the face, and that looks good. That for me is a very pleasing image. So I'll look directly at the camera rather than looking directly at the monitor. So who am I looking at? And they're just quick little tips. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to get up and then move the camera and show you exactly the setup of this situation. Okay, you saw that I was pretty hot just then. So here we are. We have this window here. We have the corner of the room. And this is our foam core that I've just balanced on the ground. Normally you would get a little light stand for that. Here we have the foam core board just balanced. Again, you would grip that up and make sure that that's stable and not moving. You can use a kind of C-clamp or G-clamp or whatever you want to call it. There's the chair in the room, and then we have a look here, and here is our light, and I put it onto a spot on the Fresnel. Use the barn doors to cut any spill off that may have come off on me. So if I just quickly show you in this situation that there becomes a bit of spill on the subject. So if I open that barn door right up, you notice that there gets some hot bits and pieces on me. So I want to kind of avoid that. So that's the beauty of having these barn doors, because you're able to really cut that light when you are spotting it. Now you're probably wondering why do I have the light here and not over here? Now that's simple. I can't get this big light stand. That's let me just open this up for you. I can't get this big light stand over in that corner here just to sit in there, right? You know, it would be very difficult. And that's the beauty of having this Fresnel lens, is because you can spot it and send that light right across the room over onto this bounce board over here, and then fill in your shadows and give your person some structure. Now, yeah, I think that's pretty much. I would probably also maybe straighten up those lines and bring the tripod down a little bit, you know, as well. And this is all super raw, super live working process, kind of like ins and outs of the filmmaking process. So if I have a look on the spirit level on my tripod, I realize that I'm not so level there and not so level there. So making sure you have a level image is always very important. And then the camera itself. So therefore our lines here, like on our window and our walls and everything, should be pretty much leading straight. I'll check my focus, that's good. I'll sit back down into my chair, and then I'm a little bit out of focus, so whoop, that looks about right. So yeah, that's it. That's kind of like a really in-depth step-by-step process of how to really take charge of building an image. Hang on, where am I? I feel like I'm a little bit out of focus. Let's go about here. That should be all right. To really take charge of the image and to make sure that your picture is cared for by you, the photographer, the cinematographer, because you know, this is what's going to pay your bills if you're going to get into it, or this is what's going to make your picture look good. If you can learn the basic tips and tricks of lighting, and to be able to get that exposure that you want, you know, the combination is endless. You just got to kind of work on your little tips and tricks, build, you know, create your tools, build your scene scenarios step by step, and take your time with it if you can. And really have a look for anything that might be out of the norm, and that could mean, say for example, like okay, this highlight out here is too much for me, so I want to bring that down again. I want it to be a little bit more moody looking, and then I want to just give a little bit more level on the subject in here, and therefore it's just a tiny little tweak, you know. Get yourself remote controls, because I've been doing for such a long time without remote controls, and such a pain in the ass if you're working by yourself when you want to get that exposure right and see yourself in the monitor, because you can't do two things at once, although it happens. And it's really amazing because, you know, without light you don't have a picture, you know, and it's really just a simple thing that you can add or take away in any circumstance that can really affect your picture, and it's all about just experimenting and trying things out. And that's what I love about this creation process, and this is what I love about sharing stuff that I've learned, and you know, I'm still in a process of learning things. So I'll crank this up to 100% now, and this looks lit, right? this looks totally lit. You can tell that somebody has come in there with a big light and just blasting the room with light, and that's that. And you know, I for one, I'm a big advocate for taking my time to set up and practice these things, and it's also a bit of an effort to record it and then talk at the same time, because it's like, okay, I'm not so used to sharing this stuff as I do the step-by-steps, but actually as I do it more and more, I really enjoy that sharing process. Yeah, so this one was really kind of designed and orchestrated for my Patreon legend, Joa. But it's important for you guys to see that how much care and love, but also how much like stuff is kind of needed to be able to produce an image that you go, wow, I can see that on TV, or I can see that in a movie, and hang on, it is freaking possible. Yeah, of course it's freaking possible. Someone's made it, you know, okay, whatever. But that I love to be able to test myself and to create these things, not on a daily basis, because that's too much, because I've got other things that I need to do, you know, and unfortunately a lot of my time is not really spent doing production stuff. So on the sidelines, to be able to do this and to be able to kind of practice whilst teaching, that's a big bonus in my mind. And I don't know, I think that I think that's it for me. I'm going to leave, like I said, a little list of all the things that I have chosen and used and utilized. I might even do up a diagram, although it's not totally necessary, but I'll do it anyway, just so you can kind of see, okay, well, this is where the camera was relative to the room. This is where the subject was sitting. This is where the bounce board was, the negative or bounce fill here. And then, you know, what bits and pieces did I use to be able to keep the exposure and keep the levels in place. And I think that's really important. That's really important to go through those processes as an image creator. As a creator in general, you've kind of got to practice and learn and try different things. And I, for a long time, had so many, not irrelevant things, but things that just weren't working for me at this particular stage in my time. And, you know, when we talk about investments and stuff like this, and you know, it gets really expensive, camera gear. You know, right now I'm shooting this on the Red Epic. You know, it's not necessary to shoot it on such a big camera. I can shoot and make the exact same picture on a Blackmagic Pocket 4K, which I have done and proven before, and the images look fantastic. I can also do the same thing with a Fuji X-T1, Canon 1D Mark IV. I don't know, and give me any kind of camera, and I can guarantee you that by using and applying these same techniques, you can get the same image quality, and that's it. That's it. Once you know how to like set up some lighting, you can do it. And you've just got to kind of take the time to look around you and look where the light's coming from and where it's bouncing from and what kind of colors and all this kind of stuff, and how that affects your image, and what do you need to take away in order to keep balance, and what do you need to add to be able to take control. And I think that is something that takes a long time, and I've been focusing super duper hard on this for a long time. And I'm going to continue doing it. And like I said, it's a step-by-step thing. And every day is a new day, and a new challenge should come by. And today was a bit of a challenge to be able to go, okay, well, here was the first situation. And then how do we change it up a little bit by just changing the camera angle, but not necessarily doing too much extra work. And I think that's something that is very, very handy to keep in the back of the mind. How do I change a scenario without too much extra work? Like I said, I moved one stand 2 meters distance. I put the foam boards, which aren't heavy at all, in some precarious positions here just to shape that light. and then I used a variable ND filter to be able to cut some of the light out that I didn't want. I mean, really, how easy is that? I mean, cinematography is a no-brainer, but when you start adding movement and all this kind of stuff, and having characters and all this kind of stuff, that's where the skill lies, and that's where you have to have a lot of people on hand who know what they're doing, and there you need also a lot of firepower. But in this simple situation scenario, you can apply this to any type of work. The best way to do it is to, well, it's proven, is to bounce the light as best as you can. What I'll do is just a quick little extra thing to show you that having direct light is not always the best light. I'll do that right now. I'll just turn this light off here. And then I am going to bring the light back in so it floods. And then I'm going to point it directly at me. And now what we're doing is we're changing the direction of where this light's coming from. And you can actually instantly see how different it's going to look. So I turn this light on, and then and look, you know, the whole look of the picture. Again, if it's totally up to art direction, and you got to explore this yourself. Let me turn that down. This direct light. I'm at 6% on this one in direct light, and it's pretty harsh light. I mean, I've got the light coming through a lens, so of course. But look how much flatter the image looks. It doesn't look so appealing to me, you know, personally. But again, you know, it's always up to the director. It's always up to the photographer who's making the picture. Maybe somebody out there goes, "Hey, look, that picture actually looks really nice," and that's fine. That's fine. That's really okay. Like, you just shoot how you want to shoot. Me personally, I just wouldn't shoot like this. I have shot like this in the past, but I realized that there is not, I'm not really 3D, you know. I'm kind of like, oh, all of a sudden it's just, I've got a really big light on me. And you know, I've got these windows out here. It kind of goes, you can kind of already see that it's just not a really believable space. And you just go, okay, well, the light is coming from over here. But as soon as you go back to that bouncing concept, and I'm just going to go back to spotting my light source, so it's all kind of focusing on that that foam core. I'll bring it up a little bit more, and then we sit back down, and then I crank that light up, and we just notice how much more convincing and believable that light is. I don't feel like I'm being totally lit to high heavens, and that's it. At the end of the day, you go, okay, well, you're trying to make an image look nice, so you make your image look nice. In this circumstance, this is just my subjective feedback here. So that's it from me. I really hope that you enjoyed watching, and I know you, Joa, have gone, finally, Patrick, you've done it. I've got my son in the kindergarten today, and finally I've put something together for you like I promised I was going to do. And I was going to do it with my big light, and I just generally have a little bit more time today, which is nice. So that's it. I am moving on to my next production, hopefully next week. Fingers crossed. We have here in Norway the 17th of May, which is the National Day, kind of like the Freedom Day from the Danish and the Swedish. One of the two. Can't remember exactly. But anyway, they celebrate that they have their country as an independent country and not under anybody else. So hooray for Norway. Yeah, and if you have any questions, or you want me to continue doing these kind of little setups and all this kind of stuff, what I want to do later, when I have a little bit more stuff organized in terms of space and people, I'm going to show some building steps to creating small adverts and stuff like that. But that's way down the track, and that's kind of like narrative stuff, and that's a little bit more kind of production intensive, because then I'm going to be dealing with actors and all this kind of stuff, and it's really quite difficult to do the teaching aspect at the same time as creating the advert or whatever it is. So that's it from me now, guys. Thanks for watching, and yeah, I'll see you in the next lovely underexposed video.
I don't know where I'm going, man, you just can't even show it to me. But I've never been so fucking sure in my entire life. Where I'm going, it's in a straight line. It's not straight to hell, because that's what everybody seems to think.